Well, welcome everybody to the second instalment of the Series 2 webcast to the Australian National University TechLauncher Showcase for 2020. What an incredible year we've had this year. We're webcasting now from the Australian Capital Territory, so from the traditional lands of the first Australians, and specifically here in the Australian Capital Territory, those are the Ngunnawal people. And I'd like to pause to acknowledge that and to pay my respect to the elders past and present. I'm Dr. Charles Gretton. I'm the convener of the Australian National University TechLauncher program, and I'm here this morning with Dr. Priscilla Kanjon, the program's co-convener. And this webcast has been put together by Manik Mahajan, supported by Ryan Ridden-Harper. And this week, we also have senior members of our Bachelor of Software Engineering degree program, Karmik Liu and Rachel Wu, moderating questions coming in on the social channels, etc. So please, in this morning's proceedings, do not be shy. Feel free to ask questions on the social channels, and also if you're joining us on Zoom this morning, please use the Zoom Q&A features. Of course, we love to get questions from you, and if we can't answer them on the audio channel, we'll try and get those answers to you on the text channel using the Q&A feature. The Australian National University TechLauncher program is the platform that this university provides to enable our students to build relationships with a range of industry, government and investing organisations and communities, and to do this prior to the completion of their degree program, either a master's or an undergraduate degree program typically. TechLauncher is an experiential coursework activity for the most part, and it's available across the university. So we support interdisciplinary groups of students who wish to pursue their learning and to develop their ideas collaboratively together and collaboratively with government and industry. The program has a close relationship with the Canberra Innovation Network and with other important local innovation ecosystem partners on campus and also around our local geography and well beyond that as well. And it's through such partnerships that TechLauncher is able to support our entrepreneurial students who wish to create and scale new social and commercial businesses. So, whether a student is driving their own startup agenda or not, our cohort learns and practices and exhibits those entrepreneurial and agile traits. This morning, I want to invite my colleague, Dr. Priscilla Kanjon, another convener in the program, to get the proceedings formally started and to invite our plenary speakers. So Priscilla, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Charles. I am thrilled to be part of TechLauncher this semester. I will get right into introducing our first speaker, Diane Hertz. Diane is the CEO of the ANU Social Research Centre. The ANU Social Research Centre provides the Australian social research community with access to world-class research and evaluation services, including research design, survey management, statistical consulting, qualitative research, data science applications, analysis and reporting. Diane is also a seasoned practitioner and leader in survey and policy research with more than 3 decades of experience in government and consulting roles in the USA. In her most recent role at Mathematica Policy Research, she had the dual responsibilities of Vice President and Director of Mathematica's Human Services Division as the company's chief diversity officer. Prior to Mathematica, Diane was an economist with the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, and during her 21-year tenure at the Bureau, she served first as an economic analyst and later as director of the American Time Use Survey and the Current Population Survey, similar to the monthly labour force survey in Australia. Diane holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Maryland, College Park in Maryland, and a master's degree in management information systems from Nova Southeastern University in Florida. And please join me in welcoming Diane to address us today. Thank you, Diane.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me all right. If you could, Priscilla, maybe you could give a nod.
Yes, we can hear you, Diane. Thank you.
Great. All right. So I will share my presentation. I really appreciate being invited today and happy to be here. One moment. All right. So you asked me to talk a little bit about the labor market, and I'll just say a few things here. We've always had a labor market that's changing, right? We've had the Industrial Revolution, the Information Revolution, the Internet, and accelerating technological change. So change in the labor market isn't anything new. And during my years at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we talked about a lot of these things: the emergence of manufacturing, women's entrance into the labor force, changing families. But in recent years, a lot of the big changes have been around technology and the related employment growth and impacts of tech, climate change and the impact on green jobs and other jobs, and the emergence of the gig economy, which you all know from Uber and Airbnb and other new businesses. And one of the things that's happened during that is also increasing income inequality, not only in the US and Australia, but in other countries around the world. So one of the ways that the economy has always been measured is through the GDP, which measures production. But there's always been some conversation about alternative measures. And the work that I did, again, many years ago now at the at Bureau of Labor Statistics on measuring time use was really about trying to get other measures of strength in terms of things like non-market work and how much especially women did around childcare and household work. We haven't really incorporated those into the national accounts, but there's been this energy for some time. So the other thing that's happening, and this was happening before COVID, is that business is really starting to think a bit differently around the metrics that they use to measure how they do their work, but also their fundamental role. And so in 2019 in the US, the Business Roundtable, which is a group of CEOs from a lot of global firms, made a critical change. They actually changed the purpose and redefine the purpose of corporations to serve not only their shareholders, which is what they had been doing, but all stakeholders, and create long-term value and promote shared prosperity and sustainability, not only for their shareholders, but also their customers, their communities, the planet. So they're starting to really develop sets of measures around how companies are performing around the environment, social issues, social relationships, including social justice and racial equity, and also governance. There are much higher levels of requirements from suppliers and customers for companies to be transparent about things like pay equity and CEO salaries and so forth. So as stakeholders and employees in your careers, you are going to drive some of these changes. In fact, you've been driving these changes as young people as well. So on top of this backdrop of already labor market change, already business change, COVID arrived and changed our lives. And what I won't go through the list here because the bottom line is COVID has changed how we do pretty much everything. And I just wanted to call up Brene Brown, who some of you may have heard of. She's a well-known leadership consultant. And what she says is we will not go back to normal. And normal never was. And she really critiques the culture that we had where we normalize greed, inequity, exhaustion, extraction. You can read the sign. Whether or not you agree with that level of criticism, I think it is true what she says in the second part, which is we're being given an opportunity to stitch a new garment and one that fits humanity and nature. So as you go into your careers, you're thinking about how to do things differently and how to do things in a way that supports the planet as well as individuals. So in terms of jobs for the future, I'll just mention the World Economic Forum. There's lots of good stuff on their website. They predict that we'll lose around 87 million jobs because of changes in technology and movement to computers and machines. But they also predict an increase of 97 million new jobs to offset and even increase the number of jobs overall, which is good because the population continues to grow. But if you wanted to know about jobs that are likely to grow, I think it's probably fair to say that jobs that are related to sustainability will at least be on the list, including things related to sustainable energy, ag, housing, crisis prevention and response, telehealth, online education, and social and racial justice. As someone who just came from the US as the Chief Diversity Officer, one of the things that was clear to me was that that market for work to create social and racial justice is growing quite a bit. I also just wanted to mention research because that's what we do, and we are a wholly owned subsidiary of ANU and can help researchers do their research. Research methods have changed in accordance with these changes in technology all along. So we used to do surveys that were paper surveys, and then we transitioned with the telephone to corded phones. Then we got to mobile phones, then we got to texting people. Now we sometimes do interactive voice response, also known as robocalls. Computers then opened up web surveying, computer-assisted telephone interviewing, apps on phones, and so forth. But the problem with surveys is that the response rates are really declining, and you only have to think about how willing you are to answer a survey to understand that. The good news is that data science, which many of you have studied, really complements survey research. And so the research world is shifting to one where solutions are hybrid. So we may use a survey, for example, to ask a custom question about a problem like domestic violence or what kind of health services you use and so forth. And surveys can be designed to be representative of the population or subpopulations. They're also really good for measuring things over time. But they can be expensive, and it's really hard to get small group data effectively. Data science, on the other hand, often has very large data sets. They might be government administrative data sets or business data sets or things that come off sensors that are proprietary data sets. And they're often messy data. They're not always representative. They may not be accurate, complete. And sometimes the algorithms actually introduce and promote bias, as I'm sure some of you are aware of. But the combination of those two things can work really well together to answer some research questions. And I'll just mention a few and then move on. So just a couple examples of how data science and survey research are coming together to make the world a better place. Natural language processing is used increasingly frequently to look at how people answer open-ended survey questions and to code them into information that we can understand or to build better questions. We did a study in the US that used web scraping. We did surveys to find out what jobs were growing in terms of especially IT, but also other areas. But then we did web scraping, and we scraped up 14 million job vacancy announcements to figure out exactly what certifications were in demand by employers. And because of that, the Department of Labor stopped promoting a number of certifications that weren't in high demand. I'll just skip down data linking. So there is a big partnership now called the Multi-Agency Data Integration Project that is bringing together 6 different Australian government agencies to pull together an integrated data set to support social policy. So data linking is really critical to moving us forward. Oops. And then data integration. So this is one of my favorite studies in the US, was a study by the Food and Nutrition Service that got a list of people who were receiving food assistance benefits, made them the sample, had them fill out the kinds of things that they purchased in a diary, telephone surveyed them when they got confused or needed help, and also gave them a barcode scanner to track their purchases. Then they linked that data to information about stores and nutritional data about the food they were getting. So they could provide a holistic view on how well this program was serving their clients. So when I think about what's needed in the labor market going forward, there are lots of things, and I know you've heard some of these before, but I think the most important thing is judgment and a good moral compass. These tools, these data science tools, artificial intelligence, machine learning, are incredibly powerful, and it's really important to use them for good and to really understand the power of the tools when you implement them. Also, a global mindset. What we do in one country is increasingly affects people in other countries, and what does that mean in our work? After that, absolutely a technical tool set that grows and is honed over time, analytical skills to make good decisions, creativity and innovation because things are changing so frequently, and especially the ability to listen and actively collaborate, which machines don't do as well as people. So ultimately, I think putting all those skills together and also tending to your own mental and physical health will make you both resilient and successful in the labor market. So I look forward to hearing your ideas today and your projects, and thank you again for having me.
Sorry, I'm just unmuting myself. Thank you so much, Diane. We'll move to El Siru, who's our next speaker, before we then do a discussion between Diane and Elle. Sorry, I'm just going to introduce Elle. So Elle has recently set up an independent advisory, Cardia Capital, to support commercialization of research-led ventures. She returned to Westpac in December 2018 as an entrepreneur in residence in Westpac Next, the team driving the design and delivery of Westpac Group's service revolution transformation. Her focus is collaborating and partnering with Westpac Business Bank on a portfolio of digital health ventures alongside coaching and accelerating the outcomes delivered by the Business Bank Customer Journey Lab, which is focused on mapping the end-to-end journey of more than 1 million customers to create experiences that surprise and delight. Elle's first tenure with Westpac came in 2013 when she joined the graduate program working with St. George and Business Bank in strategy, product, and digital roles. With her passion for innovation, Elle left to take on roles at TAL, New South Wales Government, and Optus Business, playing a leading role in the development of digital products and services. At Optus, she led the innovation and digital divisions for small business and established and headed up the Optus Innovation Hub, a corporate accelerator focused on startup and scale-up ventures. She is also the Sydney Startup Hub expert in residence, where she advises startups on how to scale through corporate partnerships, and she has previously been a director for the Founder Institute, the world's premier early stage startup accelerator and a mentor to various startups and accelerator programs. We can see that Elle has a wealth of experience in the startup space, and we can't wait to hear from her. Floor is yours, Elle.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. It's a very generous introduction. I guess just following on from, whilst I don't have a formal presentation, I'd like to thank you for including me. I feel very privileged to be a speaker here and to be a part of the program, and hopefully really following very closely some of the ideas that come to life throughout the program. My experience has certainly been across the startup and industry spaces, and more specifically, as you've heard from my background, around the acceleration. So I'd be very delighted to stay very close to the journey and this program specifically. I suppose touching on some of the themes that were mentioned in the presentation by Diane, obviously, you know, it would be amiss to not talk about COVID as being one of the you know, incredible catalysts for innovation, and certainly in the area that you heard that I'm sort of focused around, which is the healthcare space. It's you know, certainly a passion one for me. In my recent role as setting up an independent advisory, you know, we've not seen anything like the push that sort of COVID has generated in terms of a real need to commercialize research and also innovate in this space. We've seen almost 10 years of progress in innovation and commercialization really within the last 6 months. And that's not just something we felt here locally, it's of course, you know, become something global. So whilst we've seen COVID present such an incredible, you know, change to the way that we live, work, socialize, it's certainly something that's been quite an extraordinary catalyst in the healthcare space. And traditionally, that's something that we've not seen, and predominantly because innovating in that area is, you know, such a tricky and risky thing to do, given that in some circumstances it truly is a matter of life and death. So I think what this has presented is an incredible time, and certainly for you know, students like yourselves to really take an opportunity and network throughout this program, and use this as an incredible tool to really start to commercialize ideas in this space, because it's certainly something that that I've seen in the last 6 months, as I've said, be quite an extraordinary, quite extraordinary in this regard. So I think what's important to note is certainly in the theme of this particular program, the need for data and you know, and using AI and tools like that to actually improve the quality of care that people are receiving, and using that as a means for you know, improving quality of care moving forward. Obviously, in particular, one of the themes that Diane touched on there around telehealth, that's obviously going to be an extraordinarily critical you know, means and method for people to receive care, and that potentially will be the only way in which they'll be able to receive care in the future. So really, this is the sort of start and I guess the path. We're on that sort of precipice now, where we're really starting to see innovation in this space, but certainly that will take time. But this is an incredible opportunity for you all to really leverage the network here, a part of the program, because it's not just research, obviously, that commercializes ideas. It's really understanding how patients and clinicians and the entire value chain and distribution of healthcare actually make something come to life. And there's so much complexity there. And of course, I'm only just touching on one theme here, but it is a very complicated area, but certainly one that I'm hoping that some of the ideas throughout this program will focus on in all the various facets of everything from medical devices through to telehealth. So I'm certainly keen to follow the journey and to be a part of the program moving forward, potentially as a mentor. And I'm looking forward to the sort of next series of speakers and learning from and hearing the ideas.
Thank you, Elle. That's very insightful spiel about what you do and what you're passionate about. Let's move into some questions around the fireside chat. In terms of, so we've talked about survey data with Diane and Elle in the startup space. What's the role of the human in all of this? I'm thinking of cases like Shoes of Prey, where there was an over-reliance on survey data, for example, where the user was, where the startup really tried to listen to their user through surveys and trying to ask them what they wanted. But in the end, we found out that it's actually what they say was not actually what the business had to take into account. What are ways to just really deal with those situations?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to start. Of course, that's a phenomenal example of where, a business is so laser focused on, the user experience and what users wanted. But of course, one needs to take into account that in order to be viable and to actually provide that service to people, the business model behind that needs to be able to make money and be viable. So it really is striking a balance. Of course, as a starting point, one must always talk to as many users as possible in the target group that you're looking to develop a product or service for. And of course, the other component that I was talking about earlier, which is it's not just the user, it's just all the other moving parts of actually bringing something to market that's really critical, because there are a number of innovations that really never make it into the hands of people because it's just not a feasible or viable thing to develop. It might be too expensive. And that's, of course, why we don't see a lot of incredible research coming into the hands of people, whether it's consumers in retail or patients. Unfortunately, that's a key part of it. Where there is no commercial benefit or there's no viability, unfortunately, it's not a sustainable business. So it's really important to understand the moving parts behind just the user need, and that's part of the design process. It's really striking a balance between the user needs and also what's viable from a technology and a product perspective.
Thank you, Elle. Diane?
Yeah, I would just add to that. So survey research is actually a field of its own. And there's been lots and lots of research over the years about how to do surveys well. And there's a model called the total survey error model, which I'm happy to share with anyone who's interested. But it's basically, you can create error or quality at every stage of the survey, depending on the research questions that you have, whether the survey questions address them effectively, whether the sample is drawn right, things like order effects and the mode of survey delivery and all different aspects of the survey operation can affect the quality of the data. So one of the things I would recommend to anyone who's doing surveys is to talk to a survey professional when you design a survey, even if you're fielding it on SurveyMonkey, to get the questions working well and aligning with the research objectives at the front end is really critical. And there are some things that survey research professionals can apply pretty easily to improve the quality of the survey. But failing that, there is a lot of literature out there on how to create surveys well, and it's definitely worth looking into before conducting one.
And just adding on to that, adding on to Diane's sort of comments there, I think it's really important. There isn't just one method of, research. there are multiple methods of research, and it's really about understanding what's the right method for a particular outcome that you want to get to. And it's also important to note that sometimes things like group sessions aren't actually appropriate, because unfortunately what you find is there are certain personalities that do dominate the conversation and sway the rest of the group. And, you know, there are times where even in a one-on-one scenario, unfortunately, in terms of human behavior, what people say that they do is actually not at all what they really do. And so it's important actually to, you know, launch yourself into an environment and actually observe what's happening in context in the moment that you're trying to, for a problem that you're trying to solve for. And that's really, really critical. And it's also really important that you do lots of those so that there is a theme and there are some meaningful insights that you can synthesize from those experiences. So the biggest tip there is don't just take people's word for what they say that they do, because often it's actually not the case.
Thank you, Elle. And Diane,
one of the places that data science is really helpful is looking at data, for example, from Google or from social media. It's observable information that people put out there. So there's no interaction between the interviewer and the respondent that makes the respondent want to look better, if that makes sense. And so sometimes coupling a survey data with this administrative data really leads to better conclusion.
So what I'm hearing from you both is taking that holistic approach and using professional services where relevant. Diane, you mentioned trying to quantify the work done by women around household and families, which is really, that speaks to me a lot as a working mother. So we've achieved quite a feat this semester in TechLauncher. We've managed to get all our speakers for all our showcases to be all women. Last semester was all men. So in terms of doing, quantifying the work done by women around families and household, what was the outcome and what were the insights that you had?
Yeah, so what I did was in the US, I led an effort to build the nation's time use survey. And we actually drew on the model from Australia and Canada because they were ahead of us at the time. They were doing surveys every 5 years, and we learned from them and built, for example, our activity coding system from Australia and Canada. But ultimately what it led to was a set of measures, and the survey is done every single day in the US except the days that the call centers are closed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And what it led to was a whole series of measures on who does the housework, who does the childcare, how much travel, and so forth. And that can be turned into alternative national accounts. And there are researchers who have created methods for creating national accounts that measure both market and non-market work. The most prominent one in the US is Catherine Abraham, who was the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics at the time. Now, those non-market accounts haven't officially adjusted the GDP. That's nothing that was kind of adopted by the country, but the methodologies are out there. And essentially you can see how much non-market work both men and women do and how GDP would be different if that was counted. And I think that's really relevant during COVID because we do see women's labor force participation going down because women are bearing more of the burden of childcare and work at the same time with the online education.
It sounds like very important work. Thank you. And Elle, how do we, as a mentor to startups, how do we support women entrepreneurs?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I'm actually so pleased to see, you know, that there's been such a spotlight on female entrepreneurs, particularly in the last sort of year to 2 years. I really think it's for me, it's providing, you know, a really solid network. I think, you know, cities and ecosystems make ideas and they make entrepreneurs, and it's really important for us to provide that same level of support to females and to one another. And for females to inject themselves as much and, you know, of every conversation as do males. So I think there are some incredible opportunities for females. You know, we heard obviously from Diane some of the statistics we were just talking about now, but there are some pretty incredible opportunities now that we've seen how much, you know, people have changed the way that they live, work, socialize, and females are in a really important part of that conversation, whether it's the household or, you know, in other areas. We've seen in the health context, again, referring to that, obviously, female health has been really critical. And I've seen quite a lot of incredible ideas that have come out of that. But of course, they really understand the problem because they live the problem. And it's just important for us to provide light. The second biggest thing is, of course, the support for female entrepreneurs around the capital. In the capital raising space, of course, we still have a very, very long way to go to really reach the numbers of seed investment and sort of Series A that's being provided to female-led organizations. So I think as an ecosystem, whether it's starting with the university and then sort of beyond that into some of the precincts we're seeing now being developed, in particular across Australia, that we need to really start having that conversation and supporting female entrepreneurs in the capital raising side as well, because of course, that's a very critical part of building and scaling a business.
Thank you, Elle and Diane. I think we may be out of time. Is that correct, Monique?
Yeah, we're running just to time. Maybe one last question for
one last question. Okay, yes. Okay, so we chose a quote by Ma Huateng to reflect the theme of this session, which is the leader of the market today may not be the leader tomorrow. Ma Huateng is currently the richest man in China, now ahead of Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba. How does a company ensure it stays ahead of the curve and avoid going the way of, say, Nokia and Kodak? Perhaps Elle can take this one first, and then Diane.
I do love that. I love that you brought up Kodak. I often use that in terms of, when speaking to corporates, you don't want to be the Kodak that gets left behind. I think we're seeing a really interesting shift as of late. Obviously, there's a number of partnerships that are now being established at a corporate and a startup level, because there are large industry players and corporates that are certainly understanding that some of the archaic systems and legacy systems that they're operating on, and those sorts of things are, unfortunately, they won't be relevant in a period of time. So it's interesting to see that there's been a real shift in the dynamic of how the partnerships at that level are happening right across every industry, of course, and of course the importance of the startup and smaller businesses now really being backed by everyday consumers, and we're starting to see that, of course, with banking being such a critical pillar, that's obviously now starting to get fragmented, and people are starting to opt into lots of smaller players. And of course, as I mentioned, you see large banks now starting to partner with those players, obviously recognizing the relevance that they play and the importance of them partnering with those organizations to remain relevant. And of course, we see that right across the board now. And consumers are certainly opting for, to engage and to purchase from those smaller players now as well. So it's a very interesting time. I think therefore presents an opportunity for smaller players to get into the market. But in addition to that, if they're looking to partner with large corporates, there's a real opportunity now to look at that as an avenue for collaboration, but also for scale and for growth, because that's certainly something that is now becoming a lot more prevalent, particularly here in Australia.
Thank you, Elle.
Great answers. I'll just add to that. I think it's really critical that we have leaders at all levels, that we have interdisciplinary teams that include the newest hire and the most senior people. So there's a lot of skill coming in, especially in the tech area, with the newest hires in the company. And if we need to do a lot of reverse mentoring around tech to bring senior leaders up on tech and bring the junior leaders up on things like culture and process and how to trial things and which things to try out. So I think if we work together both across generations and across disciplines, then we're in a much better spot than if we try to lead with small groups at the top.
And data plays such a critical role here. I know we're over time, but I think the ability for an organization, whether large or small, to iterate really quickly or to change tack or to enter into new markets, of course, which we've seen, some really great examples of that happening during COVID, where, businesses have very quickly moved into another area where they see opportunity. And for me, the core of that is, the fact that they've been collecting data about their consumers and they can act quickly on that. So that's where I think data and all of that really comes into play, is, setting up the foundations for which an organization really understands their customer at a day-to-day level, and they can change their services and adapt and see things coming because of, and that is the power of data and the interpretation of that information. And that could mean an organization being sustainable into the future and relevant to its consumers versus not, and not being able to change in time.
Thank you, Elle. Thank you, Diane and Elle. I think that's it for our chat. So I think the takeaway is really leveraging the power of data, collaboration, and really looking at users and getting insights to prepare for tomorrow. Thank you so much. It was very insightful to have a chat to you. We'll now move to hear from our 11 TechLauncher teams who have been working hard this semester. We've got first Civilize AI. They will tell us about their work on using geospatial data and AI to provide a tool that makes sustainable and regenerative farming easier in Australia. We then have Guide XP, which has been designing more accessible and interesting digital museum exhibitions that incorporate AI smarts and use multiple languages. Then we have Evaluate, which has developed methods that provides a way to help companies reduce their carbon footprints. The next team will be Cloud, which design large-scale testing tools for their client Intercluster to make testing of cloud-based solutions smoother. Then Essential 8 will tell us about how they've extended available tools to help companies meet Australian cybersecurity standards. We then have QuickPay, who design a system for quicker, easier, and smoother payment solutions for house builders to manage their projects. Followed by Draggable. The team has worked on how to remotely track cattle to help farmers better manage their livestock. Team Building Intelligence has developed means to do comparative analysis across the building and construction industry and will present those findings to potential customers like homeowners to help them choose the right builders. Energy Dash is creating a real-time data dashboard for energy users to optimize their home energy use through smart recommendations and machine learning. Another construction team is working on redeveloping an app for their client to photographically record construction, enabling administration to oversee and manage on-site issues as they arise, as well as providing the clients with a view of site progress. And finally, Secure Use working on developing more robust cybersecurity solutions that take into account location for logging into work servers. And let's hear from our teams. Thank you. Civilize AI.
Yep, we'll now hear from Civilize AI in 1 second.
Civilize AI has developed a website that helps farmers practice regenerative farming. It models the best locations for trees, paddocks, roads, and trenches and visually overlays them on farms. Sustainable planting, building, and earthwork decisions. These decisions will increase water retention and reduce the environmental impacts of unsustainable farming. Over the past 2 semesters, our team has achieved a working front end. It allows farmers in the ACT and New South Wales to input the latitude and longitude of their farm in a search box, which produces a DEM or digital elevation model. This DEM can then be rotated and zoomed using a mouse or touch gestures. The website generates layers that overlay on top of the DEM that can toggle on and off. These layers include satellite imagery of the property, ridges, gullies, a road plan, and a trench plan. The trench plan finds contours farmers can dig along that are best for minimizing soil erosion and distributing water. The road plan follows ridges of the terrain connecting areas of the property so farmers can access their entire farm. Identifying ridges and gullies allows farms to easily split into management units such as paddocks, crop farming, and tree growth. The backend can interface with existing data from ACT and New South Wales to gather satellite imagery, contours, roads, water bodies, and buildings. Regenerative farming is the way of the future. Our project supports farmers doing it so they can maximize the usefulness of their property and overcome nature's impacts.
pretty awesome seeing such cool use of geospatial technology to help farmers. If anyone has any questions for the Civilized AI team, we've got the couple of team members here, and they're more than happy to delve into details that people might be after, even if it's Charles or Elle or Diane. If not, I've got a question. Where did we end up getting the data from, guys?
Hi, Manik. In terms of data, mostly we have a set of database for the ACT government, which we store in our own local SQL database. But for New South Wales and the images, both New South Wales government and ACT government host their own public free-to-access geospatial database, which we can pull using the standard REST API.
Right. Okay. So I'm very curious. Have we or do we plan to talk to farmers and how they might be able to leverage some of these tools?
Yeah, so we had a preliminary discussion with a couple of farmers last week in terms of, it was mainly a quick demonstration on the minimum viable product. And they were quite interested in the capability of it. And they also provided some very valuable feedback in terms of how we might steer the direction of the app for next semester.
Oh, it's fascinating, putting the smarts back in the hearts of farmers. Awesome work, guys. I'm really keen to hear more over the next weeks, months. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Now moving on to something that we all have been doing more and more of in the times of lockdown, which is learning more about our hobbies. I know a lot of people are really getting into art, and in the world of COVID, accessing art can be hard, especially to do it from your homes. And the team up next, Guide XP, is helping museum curators do just that. Let's hear about them.
Galleries and museums are seeking an online approach to managing their exhibitions and want to find an effective and efficient way to show their content to more visitors and increase their popularity. Guide XP is born to solve those problems. Guide XP is a web-based platform to help our clients, museums and galleries, to create and manage digital content. It aims to build a clean and user-friendly content management system for our clients to upload and manage exhibition-related content. It also aims to build an easily accessible website. Visitors can find everything they need quickly and easily. We adopt the mode of front and background separation and update the design, changing the different exhibits from the original digital display to the form of picture waterfall flow, and there will be unlimited downward display pictures from the interface. This is also the easiest place to attract users. This page is for our client to create new exhibitions. They can upload an image as an exhibition cover. The rich editor helps them make some formatted description for their visitors. After clicking the Save and Add Exhibit button, they can find their new created exhibitions in the draft exhibitions. Now, we can see the Adding Exhibit page. This rich editor can help our client to create their formatted description, and the image can be resized and aligned. Additionally, the audio can be inserted and adjusted into their content. Adding YouTube video is relatively easy, and our client can directly play their videos after inserting the link. At the bottom of this page, they can drag their content blocks to change the sequence, which is an efficient way for them to arrange some content in different languages. Today, Guide XP has a real client, which is the National Capital Exhibition. The National Capital Exhibition tells the story of Canberra as the capital city of Australia. Explore displays featuring the people, events, history and design of this unique, modern, planned city. Guide XP has 4 attributes that break through the barriers of space and time, enabling easy access to the internet at any time and any place over a vast area, integrates the resources of the physical museum, and uses multimedia to create vivid image and vivid display effect, make knowledge learning more convenient and systematic. The interactive and immersive design would make every visitor feel as if they are in the real world.
That was a catchy tune and a very cool project. Does anyone have any questions for Guide XP?
I suppose I have a question that relates to Diane's talk, which is, I mean, this is quite a complicated tool. The clients of this program, Irene and Jaden, sort of envisage quite a broad range of people interacting with it. So deciding how to prioritize features and deciding what exactly to build requires you sort of engage with an audience. So have there been struggles? I mean, when Diane talks about survey fatigue and the fact that no one wants to do that stuff anymore, and we need to leverage other assets. I mean, how have you gone about eliciting information about what your potential users actually will value on this tool?
Jane has talked with the National Capital Exhibition that they want to edit their own content. So we are currently working on the content management system in the backend, and so that they can edit the content in the live website. And we are currently almost complete with that.
Yeah.
And so you've had a close relationship with the National Capital Authority and sort of interacting with curators in the meantime. Yeah.
So I can add to that a bit more as well. I was involved a bit intimately in this project. Jaden used to work as an innovation lead at Accenture from memory, and their way of co-designing the product was going out and doing ethnography in an aspect with these curators to understand how to take those in-person physical experiences and creating a set of features that helps build the same mental models when people interact with these tools online. And the way they've done that is gone out and seen what tasks and activities people try to cover and finish off when they're trying to interact with these exhibits. And the aim of the tool, correct me guys if to another really cool project around environmental data analysis and helping further the whole circular economy model towards how businesses can operate from the very triple bottom down economic lens. Evaluate is taking data from businesses and helping shape how we might be able to employ more sustainable practices. So let's hear from Evaluate. Cool name, by the way.
Do you want to live in a carbon neutral future? Here at Evaluate, we strive to help you achieve that goal by providing you with an application that will help your organization keep track of its carbon footprint. Our application unites carbon and financial accounting software and provides organizations with a path to lowering their environmental footprint and reducing costs by eliminating waste. Our team of 7 members is currently working on a part of the application that allows for traditional accounting documents to be ingested by the system and automatically converted into usable carbon data. This makes the assessment process easier for everyone. We did this by building a backend API that takes in spreadsheet files, extracts data from them, and storing them in the database. Here's what Evaluate will look like once it's ready. Talk to us right now to know how much your business could be saving. Let us work together towards a greener, brighter future. And thank you for watching.
amazing. I'm loving the caliber of the teams we have working with the rigor of data that they have and the smarts that they're applying to help make these businesses apply more uh, um, conscientious practices. Just wondering if any audience members have any questions for Evaluate. If not, I've got one, which, guys, I'm wondering, in the process of using this data, how do you envisage your clients might be able to change their policies based on off of some of the work that you've done and the insights you are able to create?
So at this point, what the users will get after having their data submitted, they'll get a graph that shows them in which part of their businesses where they are they using the most energy and producing the most CO2. Our roadmap forward is to implement some machine learning algorithms to basically refer to how other businesses are saving, are cutting their CO2 emissions and providing these recommendations to the users. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, that's fascinating. It really cool to see a student project driving real change. Thanks, Clarence.
Thank you.
And on that note, next team is working with one of the coolest startups in Canberra. I'm not sure if it qualifies as a startup anymore, noting the millions of dollars of scale that they have, called InstaCluster. InstaCluster provides cloud-based solutions to the giants like Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, and help drive their digital transformation. And the student team in particular has been helping bolster the way that they go about testing how they deliver for their clients and helps that drive the digital transformation of these cloud-based solutions. I'm not sure if I said digital transformation enough, but let's hear from InstaCluster team Clouds.
In the current tumultuous technology climate, it is difficult to foresee the infrastructure needs of your application. Your application may work with 100 servers now, but overnight, as demand of your application grows, will it be able to handle 1,000 servers? Purchasing servers just to test whether the application is capable is an impractical business approach. How about testing for free within seconds, and all you have to do is upload a single file? Introducing InstaLoad, a collaboration project between ANU TechLauncher initiative and InstaCluster, develop a load generator for InstaCluster's internal server monitoring system. InstaLoad is a mock data generation system which generates data required for stress testing distributed applications, created for the purpose of aiding in the stress testing of their internal systems and speeding up the testing process. Previously, InstaCluster's developers had no easy way of testing the loads their monitoring systems could handle. This meant they could not be absolutely certain when they would need to upgrade their systems in response to the increasing customer base. Currently, it is slow and expensive to generate enough data to stress test the server monitoring system. It is highly inconvenient and inefficient for servers to expand the server monitoring capabilities due to limitations on their stress testing capabilities. Load testing the system meant they needed to generate and feed the system from a great number of servers which would cost money and take time to set up. Enter InstaLoad. InstaLoad is an application which simulates the operation metrics, data from various types and configurations of servers, and sends it to InstaCluster's monitoring systems, where developers can then use it to test the system under load. The InstaLoad application aims to address this problem by allowing users to input their desired mock data, format, and quantity to be generated through a single file easy to use input file. Then creating many simulated instances of servers which will generate and send the mock data to a user-specific endpoint. All the users has to do is start, install, load, and upload a single file detailing what kind of servers they wish to simulate, how many servers they wish to simulate, and how these servers are configured. The application will simulate the server with containerization software and send it to the monitoring system. Currently, the project is in the last stage of delivery and is able to simulate over 3,000 servers. The actual number of simulations install load can perform at a time may vary depending on the hardware and load specification. Thank you.
It's quite cool. Does anyone have any questions for the Instaload team? I see there's a question in the audience, members. So the question is, how do you simulate so many servers apart from the client and apart from the typical application scenarios? What's the ways in which you guys go about simulating so many servers? Does the team have any insights to share with the members on that? Cool. We seem to have lost the team member, so might have to take the question on note and move on to the next team, which is Essential8. Essential8 is a team working to help bolster cybersecurity and how companies can meet Australian government cybersecurity minimum standards. So let's hear from them.
Video, we are going to talk about the scope of our project and present the outcome from this semester. First of all, what is Essential8? Essential8 is a set of government strategies for mitigating cybersecurity risks. So, what is the scope of our project? This semester, we are trying to develop an automatic tool to examine the security configurations of the target system based on the Essential8 criteria and generate reports about the maturity level of the target system. For this semester, our focus is application hardening and patch operating systems. How do we achieve this goal? We have divided our project into 4 major tasks. The first one is research. Understand how different Linux distributions handle both the patching of the operating system and application hardening. The second stage is algorithm development. On this stage, we focus on creation and increment of algorithms which can use data retrieved from Linux distribution to provide insights into how the Essential8 model is implemented. A third phase is testing. Ensure that the algorithms that we design can be utilized in an enterprise environment. The last task is user experience improvement. Ensure that the command line interface and the graphical user interface is easy to use and understand. In this part, I'll use some
apparently we ran into some technical issues and the screen was not visible. Let's see if I can address that. Is the screen visible to people now?
No, I still can't see it, Manik.
Okay, that is odd.
click the button and get started.
We might have to move on to the next team. Apologies for that. It is odd, but to fill up the gaps of where this team is headed on, they're looking to understand how they can automate some of the ways in which people can enter information to better match along the lines of the standard requirements for cybersecurity from the Australian government. And the pathway for their future models is around expanding the scope of more and more automation around what can be digitally entered to allow those standard compliance requirements to be met.
Thanks, Manik. I'll post the video to the TechLauncher group on LinkedIn if people want to catch it. So Shearwater is the client on this occasion. And yeah, it's quite an interesting project for people in the security space if they wish to find out more.
Amazing. So moving on to the next team. The next team is called Draggable, and a very interesting team working again to help farmers do what they do better, and really cool. Keen to hear more from them.
A paddock can be a tedious and time-consuming process. Traditionally, farmers have made handwritten notes and then had to follow the paper trail to locate where their cattle are. This is both inconvenient and error-prone, especially on large farming operations where a number of farmers work on a single farm. So where do we come in? Draggable is a cattle tracking application for both iOS and Android phones, which allows farmers to easily log the movement of cattle between paddocks. With an easy-to-use user interface, we aim to make cattle tracking as simple as possible. Add paddocks to the user interface to represent those on your farm. Use the handy paddock builder tool to shape your paddocks however you choose. Add individual cattle using either the Australian National Livestock Identification System, individual cattle names, or neither, with tracking of attributes such as age, type, and more. Move cattle between paddocks with ease. Simply select the paddock the cattle are in, choose which cattle to move and which paddock to move them to, and hit submit. View all cattle in a particular paddock, with both a handy overview in the top right-hand corner displaying the number of a particular type of cattle, as well as a more in-depth view displaying individual attributes. We ensure that users are able to accurately see where their cattle are. We've included an operations log, which shows all previously made cattle operations and can be seen from within the application. These operations can be filtered to ensure that users can quickly find information that they are looking for. We know that not all farms have constant access to an internet connection, so we have added offline modification. As a user, this is a seamless experience. Simply use the application as you usually would. When changes are made offline, we will let you know, and with the press of a button, you can send the changes you made offline to your farm's database when you know you have an internet connection. With over 6.5 million cattle across 500,000 paddocks in Australia alone, that is quite the paper trail and subsequent headache to find your cattle. By using a digital solution, farmers will be provided some peace of mind knowing their cattle are tracked in an easy, reliable and efficient manner. This gives farmers the opportunity to focus on more important things in life. For more information, find us at the TechLauncher Showcase or contact us directly.
Awesome. It's
Questions for Draggable?
I suppose my main question is, when is Aidan, your student client, going to get this into the hands of some farmers?
I can't answer that because I'm not our client. I'm not exactly sure when it'll be deployed. That really is just up to the client, really. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon it'll be deployed and it'll see its debut in the App Store or Play Store, possibly. But as of now, there's no guarantee of a date or anything like that.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, thanks for that. And yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing this hit the App Store and getting some farmers using it.
All right. Any other questions?
Nonetheless,
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
How did you go about understanding how farmers do their work and what they needed? Did you actually go on the farms?
Okay,
and
so
observe?
good question. We did field research. So I was actually one of the people who did the field research myself. What we did was we called them up over the phone. And these were farmers, some were in Western Australia, some were in rural New South Wales. We called them up over the phone. Oh, sorry, there's an echo. I'm not sure in Western Australia. Anyways, back to the answering the question. What we did was called them up and asked them a bunch of questions, interviewed them over the phone. This was last semester, then wrote down a bunch of notes about our observations and what we found. That's why, like through that process, we discovered, all right, well, a major part of our application is going to have to be offline modification because internet is so poor in these rural areas. We're going to have to somehow allow our application to work offline, and then only when an internet connection is secured do those operations get pushed. So we were able to get a lot of like really valuable feedback from that we were able to really apply into the application. Sadly, because of COVID-19, we never got the opportunity to really go to a farm or anything like that.
I thought the offline mode was a very nice touch. Thank you for the insight.
Yeah, all good.
Amazing.
Right.
Next up, we'll be hearing from QuickPay. It's a payment solution platform that's helping homeowners and people in the building industry do things in smarter ways. So let's quickly hear from them. That's quite cool. Yeah, fintech is such a huge revolution happening in the technology industry right now. And curious if people have any questions for Quick Pay. I guess I have a question for you guys. What sorts of considerations have you guys had in terms of the compliance requirements around financial transactions?
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest parts of our platform is obviously the financial transactions, and we'll be working closely with some of the major banks and financial institutions to make sure we comply with their standards, and also we're making sure that we're working at all stages with other authorities like the PCI, and working with the standards of the government, and making sure that that's all working all good. Maybe looking at some self-auditing and some paying people to try and work with our system, see how that goes as well.
Okay, cool. Good to see that you guys are already thinking about that. I know it sounds easier said than done, and clearly you're on the right track. Amazing. Next up was building intelligence, but we've had some technical issues with their video. So I might just give a quick overview of what they do, and Charles, feel free to jump in. So building intelligence is a student team that's working on smarter ways to help manage business digitally, buildings digitally, and this goes insofar as managing rooms to maintenance services, repairs, and creating easier and more user-friendly ways for building managers and people in that domain to better interact with scheduling and delivery of these repairs. If anyone's got any questions, we will be sharing the video for the team in the TechLauncher on LinkedIn page, and stay tuned. Moving on to an equally cool team. It's called Energy Dash, and these guys are working on ways to help smarten up how people use their home's energy by using machine learning and AI. Let's hear from Energy Dash.
Do you want to live in a low-carbon and environmentally friendly future? Do you want to relieve the financial pressure of high monthly energy bills? Do you want to contribute to the fight against global climate change? Now you have a chance to accomplish these goals. We have developed a multi-platform application system provide you and your family with more reasonable energy use recommendations. Save your bills and contribute to the environmentally friendly future. The application has no complicated operations, but only provides services in the most intuitive way that even a 10-year-old child could understand. The application does not have annoying prompts, but will only inform you at the right time for the most reasonable energy use recommendations. We provide multi-platform system access. Whether you are visiting a web page, a mobile application, or a browser plugin, you can access the system anytime, anywhere, get real-time energy consume advice, and save every penny. Although the system is still under development, some functions have been realized. The application completes the analysis of your historical energy consumption data through the algorithm model to provide you with a strong support for reasonable energy use recommendations. The application provides a visual interface so that you can keep track of the consumption details of various energy data at any time. Australia currently has more than 10 million household or business energy users. And unreasonable energy consumption leads to a large amount of unnecessary carbon dioxide emissions and energy waste every year. By using the digital energy consumption recommendation application, each energy consumer could reduce their energy bill, while also contributing to optimizing Australia's energy structure and fighting against global climate change issue. Infinity Energy built the new concept of energy management system.
That's quite cool. Does anyone have any questions for Energy Dash?
I guess this is a startup based in Canberra that the students have been working with. Do you know whether the work you've done this semester has been pushed to households yet on Ben's system, or whether there's still work to be done to get this across the line?
Actually, hello, we are the Energy Dash. For this semester, actually only built kind of framework of the system, and we some of the data we only the fake data we generate this kind of data based on the real life, and our aim for this project, firstly we'll focus on the ACT area, then the New South Wales, then the other states of Australia. Yeah.
Excellent, good to know. And I guess my other question from that video is, where did you get that footage of Lake George? Is that your drone, or did somebody else send that drone up?
Yeah, I shoot this footage. Use my own drone. Yeah, it's the Lake George.
That's some spectacular footage for people who have driven to Sydney from Canberra, which many of us do a lot.
Yeah.
Very
every time I back to the camera, when I say the Lake George, I almost get back to home.
Yeah.
Thanks. Amazing. Next up, we've got a team that's helping us understand how to better manage construction sites. And let's hear from them.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm a Director of BMCA client for the Construction Eye project. Our work involves contract administration and quality control of civil engineering projects in Canberra. As part of our work, we need to maintain a picture-based evidence log of everything conducted on a site, which assists us to record and control the works and share this with our clients. Right, so we called on the TechLauncher team to look at our current approach to image management and to help us implement improvements to the feature set, as well as a few enhancements we deemed important to our line of work.
When David pitched this project to us, we saw two interconnected pieces of software at work. The first was this photographic record-keeping mobile application, and the second being an administrative platform which managed the photo log data and necessary construction site information. We decided to pull our focus onto just the mobile application as our problem scope. This implied the express need to rebuild the app from first principles, with just the screen recordings of their current app to develop off of and implement features as we saw necessary. Additionally, we knew to consider the audience of the app, who would appreciate a simple and familiar layout with minimal overhead of relearning menus and button layouts. With flexibility in mind, we decided to use React Native, which is a device-agnostic, well-supported language rich with libraries and support. We started off the semester by collaborating on a series of wireframes to more easily make sense of and develop the UI flow and feature set. What we have implemented is a re-engineered mobile app that maintains an intuitive layout, but with a number of additional features which our team and BMCA have deemed important.
Our project impact is something that we will witness firsthand. We'll be able to pick up from where they left off from the original application. Embracing many new features, the Silent will now have complete access to our code base, where they can freely request features or change in the future.
We've been really happy to participate in the TechLauncher program, giving the team a great opportunity to develop on a real-world problem with an immediate application on projects right next to the ANU.
All right, that was so cool. And to see the fact that people are actually using this app that you guys have built in real time, right next door to where we are, that is quite an achievement there. Does anyone have any question for the BMCA construction team? If not, we might move on to the last team for today, which is called SecureU, and it's a team working in the cybersecurity realm that uses a combination of many different sources such as Wi-Fi, fingerprints, location, and other things to smarten the way security is administered. So let's hear from them. Sam, would you be able to screen share with us the video if you have it handy? I seem to run into some technical issues.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Thank you.
To you, we are here to improve your security. When it comes to cybersecurity, you need more than password solution, which is easy to be spied and leaked. Besides, the traditional managed system is hard to check current user identity and control their access. SecureU will be your innovative security expert. When the first round of iteration is finished, our app for multi-factor verification is working, but this is not enough to become a completed security system. Therefore, our second iteration is to provide managers with a platform for managing users, services, and accesses. Firstly, users need to pass their own mobile phone security verification and then request the corresponding resource through the permission of their group. If there is no corresponding resource authority in the group, the user cannot access the resource. The user will first initiate a request to the group which he or she belongs to and find the permission of the corresponding resource in the group. The same user can be in multiple groups which can request for the different resources. Now we have finished the verification of multi-factor authenticated concept, proving our system can fulfill the company's security needs. At the same time, our model is universe. We provide the completed standard APIs and the interface. Any company can carry on the secondary development on the basis of this core module.
Awesome. That's Sam.
Yeah.
Do people have any questions for SecureU?
Not really. What we want to say is showing in the video. So let's hear audience question.
to have any questions coming in, and we might move to a closing now with Charles and Priscilla. Thank you so much for your efforts over the last semester, guys. You guys have worked really hard in really trialing times to keep the momentum going and delivering value to your clients. And it's a monument to what ANU students are, the caliber of ANU students and what you were able to achieve. And with that, well, I'll welcome Charles in closing today's showcase.
Yeah, also in closing, I mean, again, I just reiterate Manic's comments. The teams have been absolutely brilliant overall over the year. Moving to this online format, it always blows me away what some people come up with for their video presentations. This showcase used to be a physical event with canapes. Now we're streaming online. Of course, we can reach a much larger audience and have quite a diversity of invited speakers as a consequence of that. But of course, there's a bunch of effort and challenges that the students have had to overcome to be able to showcase their work in this new format. So massive thank you to the students for going all out and making some brilliant videos. A huge thank you to Elle and Diane for joining us this morning and inspiring the cohort and ecosystem partners with some of your wisdom and some of your observations from your career and from the projects that you're being involved with and that you're getting involved with nowadays. Just something to note in closing is none of this program is possible without an enormous amount of generosity from people from industry and government who give of their time on a weekly basis to meet with the teams in the program and to mentor them, to moderate their processes and to impart their wisdom. And so a huge thank you to those people who are engaged with the cohort and to the clients who pitch initiatives into the program. If you're joining us for the first time online or have been a friend of the program for many years and you've got something interesting that you want to pitch to the students to perhaps tickle their interest, please get in touch with Priscilla and John or myself, Charles Gretton. Jump on our ANU TechLauncher website and get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, I'll draw the proceedings to an end. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, folks.